Hello, Star Trek fans. Welcome to ReBingeIT. This is the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we are rebinging Star Trek Voyager from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 3, Episode 12, Macrocosm. This episode aired December 11th, 1996.
And I remember the aftermath of us watching this one.
Okay, I do not. We'll have to talk about that. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about last week's episode, which was The Q and the Gray?
Ooh. I think it was funny that both of us at the end were on the same page of how do we rate this thing?
Yeah, we discussed that rating for a long time, which isn't how it usually goes.
It's normally a little bit more cut and dried.
Yeah, but we came to a conclusion. Well, should we get started on this one?
It's nice to be back on a normal recording schedule. And right after saying that, we've got WonderCon coming up, like in a week. So our schedule is going to be off again.
Yeah, we missed a couple weeks, and then this weekend we're trying to make up by doing 2 in a weekend, and then next week we have WonderCon, and
yay.
Yeah, it's been difficult to keep ahead. Hopefully we don't run into a time where we run out of episodes and we have a gap. We try really hard not to do that, but, you know, sometimes life gets in the way.
Yeah, so, well, and most importantly, this week I've got to decide if I'm going to go in cosplay to WonderCon.
I thought you were going to go as the chicken.
Oh, that is a pretty good one. If anybody saw me as Wallace and Gromit at WonderCon, hi.
What year did we do the chicken? Was that like 2017? That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was way before.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the episode.
Yes, I suppose we probably should.
Off you go.
We open with Neelix concluding trade talks with a strange-looking alien in a blue and grey patterned bodysuit, which also includes gloves.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very interesting outfit.
I dig his outfit. It's sparkly and the gloves are cool. It's very dramatic.
The really interesting part is that this race seems to have a very formalized language, which is punctuated by odd poses and body movements as they say the lines. And I remember that when we saw this episode originally.
I don't remember it from when we saw it originally, but I thought that the drama of it went really well with the drama of his costume.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, the alien also doesn't like it when Janeway speaks, asking Neelix to tell her to stop talking. And we go into a captain's log, and I have the star date, should you need it, Kim.
Pass.
Janeway is in a shuttle with Mr. Neelix, having concluded a trade mission with the Tak, which is this strange race, and she describes them as one of the more unusual species. And I notice here she's in one of the boxy, boring shuttles, not the cool one from the Swarm. So Why does Tom and B'Elanna get the cool one, and her and Neelix get the boxy shuttle?
I don't know. Maybe this is the one she likes. Maybe she has a favorite one.
Oh, well, if you were the captain, wouldn't the cool one be your favorite?
Well, it depends what you like. Like maybe this one has better speakers to play her tunes.
Oh, it's got it had the upgraded hi-fi option.
Yeah, might have the better replicator. I don't know. More comfortable seats.
It's got good seats, yeah.
It's got the massaging seats.
Okay, there's got to be a reason. Okay. So in the shuttle, they discuss how the Tak use gestures as part of their communication. Unfortunately, when Janeway put her hands on her hips, in Tak, that is the worst insult possible. She describes them as being unforgiving and making the Klingons look sedate. Fortunately, Neelix has something of a knack for diplomacy, smoothing over Janeway's terrible faux pas, and she suggests promoting him to Ambassador Neelix, which he says he likes the sound of.
I read that this was a very specific joke that they made about Kate Mulgrew's tendency to put her hands on her hips.
Oh, okay, that's funny.
Yeah, that's cute. Also, I like the name of this alien race, the Tak, because it reminds me of the aliens in Mars Attacks. Knack, 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 knack.
Oh, knack, knack. Mars Attacks, a much underrated classic. What a great movie. And Martin Short is hilarious, even though he's in it for a fairly small amount of time.
I remember it being very weird, but also very funny, especially in the end, and how they managed to subdue the aliens being very funny.
Yes. Worth a watch, people. They arrive at the rendezvous point with Voyager, but it's not there. It's missing and is over a light year away, and worse, it appears to be adrift. They can't hail the ship, and even Chuckles doesn't respond.
Oh, Chuckles.
There's no sign of damage, no escape pods were launched, and Janeway can't even get clear life sign readings because of bioelectric interference.
We never actually explained the bioelectric interference.
I assume
Do we?
That's just what the virus is causing. It's just a side effect of how many viruses there are. Janeway tells Neelix, grab a phaser, we're going to get some answers. And into the opening credits.
Oh, the drama. Good opening.
Oh yeah, Janeway doing what she loves. Grabbing a phaser and charging in. Because there might be something to shoot.
But it's just a good opening because we have a little humor, we have a new alien.
Yes.
We have even a good costume. We have a good interaction between Neelix and Janeway. Actually, Neelix, for a change, is proving to be useful, right?
Yeah.
I like the way that we've turned him into a much more useful part of the crew than he was in the beginning when they didn't know what the hell they were doing with him.
Yeah, I think they've really figured out a good role to put Neelix into in the continuing story, and that's much appreciated from what he was at the beginning.
Definitely. And then I also like that we've established the mystery before we even get to the credits.
Yes. The other thing that happens here is it's the start of a running joke of Janeway keeps on referring to Neelix as ambassador during this whole episode.
It's better than bar rodent that he got in yesterday's episode or last week's episode.
That's probably the best name he's received in the whole show. The other thing I want to talk about is I think this was a really interesting concept, and I don't think we've seen this before in Star Trek, which is these aliens doing poses as they actually speak. So it not only is the language, does it seem very formal, like when he's saying, patience and giving this like little speech, but the way he does the hand motions. And when Neelix apologizes and he's like holding his hands out and doing this little facial expression. I love the little sci-fi concepts that come into Star Trek and when they use them. So that was really welcome that they created this species who doesn't actually really have that much screen time, but is it has a great memory.
Yep.
Also, do you remember after we saw this, how I kept on doing that for like several days after?
I don't remember that, but I'm not surprised.
Back on the credits, and we immediately jump into action with Janeway entering the ship with phaser and tricorder in hand. The bioelectric field is permeating the ship and making a mess of all their readings. Comms and main computer are offline, and this is a common problem with computers on Starfleet vessels. They seem to go down very easily.
All the time.
I'm wondering, is it because nobody's changed the default sleep settings? Go to sleep if nobody's touched a keypad or a panel in 10 minutes. So it's in sleep mode.
Well, actually, that would imply there were security protocols, so I don't think that's it.
It just crashes a lot.
But yeah, I mean, everything is shutting down. It's like exactly what has happened here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Who went, oh, things are going badly. Yeah, I'll press shutdown computer.
Yeah, I don't think they do a good job of explaining why the ship is so damaged.
Yeah. So Janeway and Neelix head off to the bridge. And in one of the corridors, they find just some maintenance tools lying around. Neelix describes it as if they just left everything and ran. There's a brief distraction as they find a comm signal in Ensign Wildman's quarters, but there's no one there. She just left her TV on and it's playing Neelix's breakfast show, Good Morning Voyager, which I think that's really sort of 90s, isn't it?
Yeah, like the TV is on and nobody's there and breakfast was still on the table. I mean, that was the whole point of that scene.
Yeah.
At first I was like, why did we go in here? And it's not like we ever see Ensign Wildman in this episode, but I realized it's sort of a part of the horror story, right?
Yes.
Is that this little family all of a sudden disappeared right in the middle of breakfast.
Yeah, it's a common horror trope of everything's just left as, as it is, as if the people just ran out.
Right.
It's a staple of a good horror.
Mm-hmm.
Janeway figures out that Wildman was last in the quarters about 11 hours ago when they hear a buzzing. Outside, we see a shadow move across a wall, but we don't see what it is. They follow it into a transporter room where it appears to have punched a hole through the floor into the Jeffries tube below. And this totally looks like Alien. It looks like alien blood has melted through the floor. Janeway does say it punched through, though. But it still looks like...
Yeah, she does say that. Yeah. Apparently that goo, even though it looks... We want it to be what it was an alien, and we think it's acid and that ate through the floor. But we see that stuff all over the ship, so it's just goo, apparently. But yeah, this is sort of the first, it's like alien clue that we got,
I'm sure that was a deliberate nod.
Oh, 100%.
While they look at the hole covered in goo, Janeway tells Neelix, I'd say we have an unexpected guest. Things keep getting better, Main power is now failing, and environmental controls go offline. And they continue their trek to the bridge. In the turbo lift, it's starting to get hot, and we get a Neelix anecdote about where he grew up and how the lava flies would grow to 6 centimeters long, which is about 2.5 inches in freedom units. But that's still smaller than North Dakota mosquitoes, right?
Definitely. I don't know why you say North Dakota in particular, but South Dakota, Minnesota, tri-state area.
It's just I remember South Dakota was where I got murdered by mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And you have that picture of me in the airport where it looks like I've been in a fight because I have giant red welts.
Like a softball-sized welt. Yeah.
The turbo lift judders to a halt as there's a life sign in the turbo shaft, and we hear a buzzing like a whole lot of flies. We also see Janeway is starting to look a little hot and sweaty, and she gets to work on the traditional Star Trek manual override for the turbo lift. Something then breaks through the wall of the lift and squirts Neelix with some kind of green fluid, and a tentacle reaches through the wall. Janeway does get to use a phaser for the first time, zapping it. And yes, I'm going to keep track of the number of phaser shots Janeway gets off in this episode.
Oh, okay. There's one.
I also thought, is this the Caretaker's ex return to wreak more havoc? Because she was like into manifesting tentacle monsters, if you remember.
Yeah, that's true. And this thing did sort of reach through the turbo lift. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They escape through the Jeffries tubes as Neelix is starting to feel queasy. Janeway's starting to look very super sweaty now.
Well, she does explain that with the systems going offline, right? The plasma conduits aren't able to cool properly. So she's like, it's going to get even hotter.
In good news, Janeway detects human life signs, so the crew's still alive. Eventually, Neelix can't go any further, and she has to leave him as she climbs up to get an emergency medical kit. But down below, Neelix hears the buzzing again. And we see from the perspective of something unknown in the Jeffries tube come rushing towards Neelix. And we hear a scream. And this was very First Contact.
As Janeway was climbing up the ladder, it was like, climb, 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 climb. I mean, she had to get far enough away for it to make a difference. But also, it's like we hadn't seen that much climbing since the staircase in the pilot, where we were on those stairs like for hours.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of stairs there.
Yeah.
But also, it reminded me of First Contact, where you see the ensign with the red hair, where whatever it is comes just rushing towards it through the conduit or through the Jeffries tube.
Oh, there's a lot of things in this episode that remind me of First Contact. So yeah, that was one of them. But also the perspective from the Borg, they did that a lot too.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are only the first few things that we'll see. And I think we talked about in the last episode that this is right after First Contact's release.
Janeway rushes to get back down, but when she gets there, the bar rodent is gone. And all that's left is a trail of alien goo.
Now, I don't think we ever see Neelix again.
We do not.
So, where did he go? What happened? I mean, we don't really cover why he disappears.
Yeah.
And we don't really talk about these things actually dragging people away. So, is he dead?
Well, we kind of do.
Do we?
Later on, the Doctor talks about how the things like herd all the people together, that they have, the aliens have some kind of instinct. So I think maybe they are dragging them to one or two particular points. It's the briefest of lines, so it's not really a full explanation. But
as far as we know, Neelix is dead. We never see him again.
I would like to question why, after you got squirted with unknown alien slime, you didn't take your clothes off.
Because they didn't have, they haven't established what Neelix's body looks like. They've only got the face and the feet. So they would have had to come up with a whole thing.
So the makeup would be,
could have at least taken the jacket off or something.
Right. He's just wandering around covered in this goop.
And even at first it's like, okay, so he got covered in goop. Did he actually get bitten? Or what happened? But I guess there's a thing later with B'Elanna where she just touches the goop and then she's infected. So yeah, I guess it's just the goop that gets you. But there's no way that didn't also touch Janeway because she was trying to tend to him and help him along. So how would she not have gotten any of that on her?
Right. That's a good point.
And also, if it touched mostly his clothes, I guess he could have seeped through.
Soak through? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, could have.
If you take them off, they wouldn't have soaked through. Yeah.
Well, it did seem like it also hit him in the face because I think he was like,
oh, gross.
Yeah, like, ugh. Because he does say that's disgusting.
Back from the dramatic ad break, and sweaty Action Janeway has made it to the abandoned engineering.
Oh, this part's good.
I do think she should be careful wandering around with a phaser in engineering around the warp core.
She knows what she's doing.
In the upper level of engineering, which gave Janeway a chance to climb some more stairs, she seems to have stashed her to-go box, when she takes off her uniform, going into tank top Janeway mode.
Yes, tank top Janeway. I immediately texted you.
You did,
we talked about this a lot in Prodigy. It's the absolute best Janeway is sweaty tank top Janeway.
She's got everything in this box she needs. A backpack, a wicked-looking knife, and most importantly, her favorite, a very big phaser rifle.
A gigantic gun.
Thusly, Janeway is transformed into Ellen Ripley in the Aliens movie version.
And I just don't know how she does it, but no one looks better than Janeway when she is in that tank top.
Yeah.
Her bun is all mussed, and she is hot and bothered and armed. I don't know. I can't quite figure out, is it just the way that she looks, or is it the fact that I have this whole image of her, being Action Janeway, and it's when she's like that things happen. Then we get the action episodes, right? We get some really exciting stuff. But yeah, she looks good. This is the best scene because I'm like, okay, here we go.
Oh, I would agree, because there's a great shot here of when she's completely tooled up as Tactical Janeway. She just marches across engineering. And they do this great shot of her sort of standing there with the gun, and then she moves on. Mm-hmm. It's a great look. Cut to Janeway forcing the bridge doors open, and there's green alien goop all over the place. It's like this crap is everywhere.
Yeah, who's going to clean that up?
That's what I was thinking.
It's like you need a total power wash of everything, especially if that stuff is super contagious. That's just gross.
As Janeway works at a panel, we see from the perspective of something watching her and hear buzzing. It slowly closes in on her, and we see Janeway slap her arm as if bitten by a mosquito. And in her hands, there's like a crushed, bloody something, but we see there's a big red bite mark on her arm.
I like this scene a lot. It's just Janeway on the bridge in the dark, and there are no special effects. We just have the perspective of something that's buzzing its way towards her. We don't see anything. Yep. It's very dramatic.
It's sound and just having a camera just slowly closing in on Janeway.
Well, plus there's the desperation that she's, acting under, because she's trying to send out an emergency SOS. And so you do hear that, and you know that, she's doing what she needs to do as the captain, but something's sneaking up on her. And the other thing is, I think we often expect when something like that is happening that the character is going to turn around and shoot it right before it gets her, right? But that's not what happens. So you've got this double anticipation that's building, and then the thing bites her. Yeah. It's really cool.
And you see that it's tiny, so she can't see it. Right. Yeah, that really helped make the whole thing work. Mm-hmm. Still on the bridge, the computer has located the life signs of the crew, and she heads off to the mess hall. Everything in the hallways is very dark, and I guess the ship's on auxiliary power. This is giving such a great horror movie vibe.
All we're missing is the Borg music.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it is like that.
Yeah.
Arriving at the mess, we see a number of the crew all unconscious and unresponsive, including Harry and Chakotay. And we get what might be the grossest part of this episode so far. Janeway looks at what seems to be a huge boil or lesion on the side of Chakotay's neck. And as we watch, what appears to be tiny flies emerge and buzz away. Ugh. Absolutely gross and horrifying.
That
awesome.
Is gross. It's not grosser than Tom's tongue falling out, but it's gross.
Really?
Oh, the tongue. I stand by my assessment that the tongue falling out is the lowest point in Star Trek history.
Really? I find this one more disgusting.
Well, I think this is quite gross, but there was just something so bottom of the barrel stupid about the tongue.
Okay. Behind Janeway, a large three-legged, or three-tentacled if we want to be accurate, floating thing rises into the air. She swings around, phaser in hand, but it just knocks her across a table. As it comes in for the kill, Janeway just blasts it. Janeway phasering, number 2.
Yeah, but she takes a bad fall.
Oh, yeah. Staggering away from the mess hall, an injured Janeway makes it to sickbay, forcing the doors open, to be greeted by a phaser-wielding doctor who says he thought it was something else. We also see here the bite on her arm is starting to turn into like a huge red lesion. The doctor has to treat Janeway for the injuries she received in the mess hall and explains to her what happened. After she left for the tac-tac, they received a distress call from a mining colony that was suffering from a viral infection, and Chakotay approves the doctor going on an away mission to help them. The doctor seemed so excited by this, going on his first actual away mission. He's also perhaps a little over-enthusiastic. In the mine, the doctor finds one of the miners extremely sick and notes the large lesion on their neck. And we get another shot of the gross flying things emerging from it.
But the doctor's very excited.
Oh, yeah. The doctor seems very surprised at this new life form, describing it as a macroscopic version of the virus. And I notice here, after he gets all interested in this virus, he completely ignores the sick miner.
Yeah. He's like, oh, well, that guy's dead.
Yeah. Oh, this is way more interesting. You just lie there and die or something. He describes how the virus found a way to leave the microscopic world and enter our world, calling it a remarkable evolutionary development. Perhaps, more worryingly, the virus continues to grow at an accelerated rate.
I don't understand the excitement about this being a life form. I thought we only really cared if they were sentient. I mean, it's a virus.
Oh, I think as a conceptual idea, it's very rare or they have not encountered it before.
But literally dangerous and terrifying. So, the excitement about it just seems weird.
So are Klingons.
Oh, this virus has evolved into a giant thing that's now going to chase us and kill us. That seems fine.
Well, the Doctor might have a slightly different perspective because it can't kill him in a conventional sense.
No, but the humans who he's talking to should be afraid.
Well, they're disposable.
And they take no precautions.
Well, that's another thing about, another parallel maybe with aliens. Remember, the robot was the one who was most interested in getting the alien and retrieving a sample, and the Doctor's kind of the same here. The Doctor probably admires its purity.
Oh, God.
Well, the Doctor wants to beam the virus aboard, but Chuckles denies the request. Another miner appears pleading for help, and the Doctor wants to beam him aboard, but Chakotay quotes protocol that they can't do that, and a little more somber Doctor beams back. I thought that was kind of interesting, because the Doctor was all really geared up to help. And when protocol is quoted back at him, which he understands that they can't without proper containment and a biolab and a way to dispose of the virus, all these things, you sort of see him kind of crestfallen of the idealism is replaced with the practical reality.
But he needs time to develop a vaccine.
Yeah.
And, right, so, he still has the opportunity to try to work on this, to try to help.
Right.
He just can't bring the infected patient on board, which seems smart.
Right.
But the stupid thing here is that this thing took flight right in front of the Doctor, and we still just beamed him on board. We didn't do any kind of, specific decontamination or anything, but the thing could have been on his shirt. What are we doing?
Because he's in solid form. Yeah, that's
correct.
Also a good point.
So I wasn't too impressed with Chuckles.
The Doctor beams back, but it turns out some of the viruses came back with him. And worse, before they could be purged from the biofilters, they migrated into the pattern buffer. This falls fully under exactly how did they manage to do this if they were just part of the matter stream? Are these also a tech virus, a technology virus that can migrate through Starfleet systems?
Maybe, because somehow they do affect the ship. But this doesn't make any sense. Because Chuckles says we can't beam the patient up because we don't know if the biofilters would block it out. And it's like, we've talked about this before. Yeah. The biofilter should block out absolutely everything that it doesn't know.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Letting stuff you don't know on board is a very bad idea.
Exactly. But somehow these things do end up in the biofilters, but then they get out of the biofilters because it took too long to purge them. This is not the appropriate protocol and that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. There's several times in this episode where I put in my notes, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, I don't necessarily care because it still leads to a very exciting episode, but come on. That was a little ridiculous. Because he said it took me too long, or the few seconds that it took me to purge the biofilters. Like, that makes no sense. The biofilters should have purged automatically.
Right, because that would make them useless.
It makes them completely useless, as we've seen.
In sickbay, the Doc's working on a cure and recommends for the large version of the macrovirus, they just use a fly swatter. Or, as Janeway has proved, a large phaser rifle is very effective.
So does he mean you just need to kill them, you need to swat them, they're not contagious? Or what does he mean?
I assume he means that you just swat them.
So so maybe what he is saying is, I have to work on the vaccine for the people who are infected, but the rest of you can just kill the big ones. Yeah,
kill the big ones. I think that's the implication, yes.
Okay, it was a strange line.
The Doctor continues the story, saying the virus had moved from the transporter buffer into an adjacent system, a gel pack in the mess hall, which Janeway actually mentioned when she looked at the ship's diagnostic when she got back on board. A gel pack had ruptured.
But just one somehow.
So this is a tech virus that somehow can move across Starfleet technology. In the flashback, we see B'Elanna in the mess hall looking at a damaged replicator, and also Tom is being a bit of a jerk here.
What was going on in the scene? I thought both of them were acting very strange, like they were being quite terse.
Yeah.
And I was like, why were they so cranky? Had something already happened?
Well, Tom just seemed annoyed about he was stuck with cooking and the replicators had all gone offline. And why is B'Elanna, the chief engineer, going to fix the replicator?
Well, she just came in for lunch.
Oh.
And Tom told her. And Tom implied that the whole reason he couldn't cook was because engineering wasn't doing their job. It was a weird interaction that is beneath Starfleet officers. Didn't you think so?
It seemed very petty.
Yeah, which we're supposed to be beyond petty. Right. So what are we doing? I just thought they were acting like children.
As B'Elanna inspects the replicator, we see a gel pack. She describes it as looking like it's infected and full of a mucilaginous compound.
Mucilaginous? That is a very big word that I had to look up. Oh, that made me laugh.
As she goes to touch it, it explodes, squirting goop all over her hand.
Why are you reaching in to touch the thing that you just said? Well, that looks infected.
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen?
It's like everybody has lost their minds already. That's why I was like, are they already infected? Because they're all acting badly.
The doctors repaired Janeway's injuries, but now she's also infected with the virus. Fortunately, the doctor has perfected the antigen, but he hasn't tested it on a live subject. And Janeway volunteers to be the guinea pig. Didn't I tell you, I don't know if it was on the podcast, but didn't I discuss with you, I think it was in Warlord, is the Starfleet version of the FDA drug approval? Just give it a go, see if it cures them or kills them.
Just try it.
What's the worst that can go wrong?
Well, I mean, how much process can you really follow in this scenario? None. They're all going to be dead if he doesn't do something.
But I would imagine at this point, the simulation tools would be so far advanced.
Yeah, but the systems are down, so...
Oh, true. But the doctor's still working. But yeah, the doctor can...
Well, but they did that whole thing. The two things they've told us are totally independent, right? Are the doctor's program and the holodeck.
That makes it even more concerning, because maybe he hasn't actually run the simulations.
Yeah, exactly. Well, QA is always the first to go.
Oh, that is so true.
I don't know how many times I have to say it. It's why I won't let a car drive me somewhere. Because I know software is all terrible.
Well, I think we all know the best form of QA is to get the customers to test it. They never get upset when it doesn't work.
All right.
The doctor continues the story. Everyone in the mess was exposed and immediately started to get sick. And worse, the virus had gone airborne. Chakotay quarantines Deck 2 and Tuvok erects a biocontainment field. In sickbay, the doctor and Kes are studying the virus. Kes is watching one under a microscope and noting how quickly it grows. But when she looks again, it's gone. It's grown into one of the large flying versions, and they have to seal it in with a force field. In the mess hall, B'Elanna is feeling nauseous in both of her Klingon stomachs, and Tom sees on her neck the giant red lesion.
This is where we see yet again on B'Elanna, we see the bugs come out of the sore.
Yes.
And finally somebody has the right reaction. And Tom, he's just like, oh my God, and he backs away.
Right.
Like, yes, that is the appropriate reaction to that.
Back to sickbay with Kes and the doctor. The escaped virus is now 0.3 meters across, so that's about 12 inches. And it's buzzing around and has a stabby thing at its base. The doctor's ready to test his antigen, and the testing method can best be described as hilarious.
Ridiculous.
He drops the force field.
He tells Kes to back up.
Yes. He drops the force field, struggles with the 3-tentacled flying virus, and then stabs it with the hypospray, killing it. I feel there could be a more controlled way of doing this experiment.
Well, I would like to point out that we have had containment fields before in sickbay, and the doctor is able to just walk through it because he is a hologram.
Good point.
He didn't need to drop a containment field. That was so I had to back up and watch that. I'm like, that is the dumbest thing we've done in this episode. That was really dumb.
It was pretty funny. It did feel like a hold my beer moment.
Oh, it was so silly, yeah.
Cut to the mess hall, where most of the crew is now passed out. But before the doctor can start administering the antigen, he's swarmed by multiple macroviruses.
Couldn't he have left the hypospray with Tom or something? Because Tom was still pretty coherent.
Right. And does he have to put it in their necks? I mean, he's crawling around on the floor. Couldn't he,
shoot it in somebody's leg or something? Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was a little bit badly explained. It would have been better if he had no way of getting there or something.
Right.
Like if at that point the transporters had gone down or
the doors had sealed, something. But we did see that the little stabby thing could damage his mobile emitter, so...
Yeah, but still, he got out of there, and I feel like he could have thrown the hypospray at Tom.
He could have tried a little bit harder.
Just get one person cured, and now you've at least got someone to help you.
Yeah, and drag Tom to sickbay.
Yeah.
As the Doctor concludes the story, we hear the macroviruses begin banging on the sickbay doors.
I suppose it makes sense that the Doctor doesn't always know tactically what to do in those situations. Although he did, I don't know, he was involved in a pretty complicated plan in Basics Part 2, but he also had co-conspirators in that scenario. In this scenario, it just seems like he was virtually no help. He did the thing that he needed to do, which was to create the vaccine.
Yeah.
But in this scene where he can't accomplish what's needed, and then later it happens again where he's just like, oh no, I'm over, I can't do it.
I think, so, that is a good point though. He isn't programmed or experienced.
He's not.
In those kind of things. So it would be a pure learning process for him. And without training and direction, then, I could see him actually flailing at, I don't know what to do.
And he doesn't necessarily have the real drive to survive. That a live person would have.
That's an interesting take, yeah. Does he have that drive, or is it
I don't know.
Offset by the fact that, very different things hurt me compared to biologicals?
Yeah. I mean, he knows that if the mobile emitter is broken and his program is in it, he could be gone forever. He does know that because we've talked about that, and we talked about it in this episode. So I guess maybe all he knows is trying to survive himself.
I'll sacrifice the humans so I may live. The Doctor continues the story, and he recounts how dozens of the larger virus forced their way out of the containment and incapacitated the crew. Like how?
I don't know, and... I guess maybe what happened is that there were actually, the small ones were already out in other locations.
Oh.
Because they shouldn't have been able to get through.
Right.
And I suppose, too, at some point when the systems went down, that containment went down. But that's not what happened in the story, in the flashback story. It was like, it's contained to Deck 2 because the Doctor even says it's only impacted people on Deck 2. And then all of a sudden it's like, it got out.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
I guess, maybe it was a time constraint because you could explain it by maybe the viruses reached a critical mass at some point, or as they seem to be smart, they managed to overload a plasma conduit, always a favorite, and blew the force field emitters out and something like that.
I guess that could be it. Or also whatever the interference is that Janeway and Neelix see on Voyager when they get there.
Yes, the bioelectric. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that bioelectric interference actually disrupted the containment field.
So if you got enough of those macroviruses together in one spot, they could potentially,
Okay, that could be it, yeah.
So it could simply be a time constraint of they had an explanation for it, but that's on the cutting room floor somewhere.
Yeah. So as usual, you have to fill in some gaps.
Right.
I'll allow it.
Janeway and the Doc discuss plans, and it turns out the antigen can be distributed in gaseous form so they can use the environmental system. All they need to do is get Janeway to Deck 12. They take 2 canisters of the antigen and each set off through the Jeffries tubes from sickbay on separate routes. And this is where we need to talk about first contact.
Again.
The sickbay is identical to first contact. It's like the same set.
Yeah. I mean, it probably is. The only thing maybe that's different is the lighting is a little different, and also some of the colors of things are different.
Yeah.
Like the door is a different color.
Yes, the door is red in First Contact, and there's also Borg bashing on it.
Right.
I mean, I could see it as, starships have a standard layout for a sick bay, so they all look the same. But it's just funny because the scene's very similar to the one in First Contact where Beverly Crusher takes Lily and they escape through the Jeffries tubes at the same spot.
Yeah.
So that really stood out.
So this time the Doctor gets to go with instead of being a distraction.
Right, exactly. I thought there was a nice touch when they were crawling through the Jeffries tubes and the Doctor doesn't quite know the route to take because he doesn't have the whole ship memorized.
Which is crazy.
But Janeway has the whole thing memorized.
But it's crazy because the Doctor's a program. But anyway, she knows exactly where he needs to go. And when she's giving him really complicated directions, she says to take a left at section 31.
Nice touch there. I do like how he says, who designed this ship?
And she's like, we don't have time to talk about this. I got things to shoot.
Well, saying that, as Janeway crawls through the refuse tubes, she runs into 3 of the buzzing aliens. Hot tank top Janeway phases all 3 of them. So we have phases time 3, 4, and 5 here.
Bug guts everywhere.
Yep.
I mean, this ship needs a real power wash because
it's the only way you're going to get that out.
Gross.
The doctor calls, and unfortunately, he's trapped on deck 10 in a shuttle, which is a bit of a hand wave because couldn't he use the transporter in the shuttle?
Well, again, I think the bioelectric interference is probably stopping that from working.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't he use the phasers or something? Because the sensors are, the computer's working because he does something, but you can't transport. This, again, is another example of where earlier he just uselessly fell apart in sickbay. And here we see him do nothing. It's like they go in their separate directions. And the next thing is him saying, well, I didn't get very far. I'm now trapped.
Yeah, I'm in the shuttle.
I gave up and hid in the shuttle.
Yeah, I think you can bioelectric field a lot of the hand waves away.
I think we have to.
Janeway's made it to environmental control, and she's getting online. But before she can distribute the antigen, Voyager is attacked. It's the Tac-Tac. They're shooting at Voyager. She calls the Tac-Tac ship, and it's the consul again. And he tells her the mining colony was infected and has been purified. Voyager is infected. We are purifying you.
Yeah, thanks.
He tells her there is no choice. There is no cure for the virus. Voyager is a threat. Janeway tells him of the cure and offers to share it with them. And he gives her 1 hour to cure her crew. That's got to be one of those Janeway moments of, oh, what now?
Well, there is that moment when she tells the doctor that, right? She's like, well, okay, I got them back online, but now, since we've been shot at, now I can't distribute it. And the doctor actually clearly gives up. He's just like, oh, no, we're out of options. And she just goes, oh, no, because she's always got another idea.
Right. As Kim said, the environmental controls are shot, and she has to brainstorm with the doctor. They come up with a plan. Having figured out the viruses are attracted to infrared signatures, she tells him, let's give them something new to sink their teeth into. Although, strictly speaking, the viruses have that, stabby needle projection, so...
Well, she hasn't had the privilege of seeing that up close yet.
Right, she hasn't.
Mm-mm. She's just been bitten. That's all she knows.
Right, that's a good point. So from her perspective, they might have teeth.
Yeah.
And off to Neelix's resort program, as the viruses flood into the holodeck. This has cleared a path for the doctor, and Janeway tells him to grab his hypospray and get to the crew. Janeway tells him she's put together an antigen bomb, and all she has to do is drop it.
This is another thing that reminded me of First Contact, because Picard lured the Borg into the holodeck.
Yes.
Right? So that was also similar. And I also really laughed when she said that she programmed the characters in the holodeck to react to the virus. And so the poor things are running and screaming. I'm not sure how that helps, because did the virus really care about that? Yeah. But that was just a little comedy, I thought.
Cut to a great scene here, as full Action Janeway marches down a dimly lit corridor, phaser in one hand, antigen bomb in the other. And it's really well shot too, with this low-angle follow cam shooting up at her. And you see the lights flashing the red alert in the corridor as she marches towards the holodeck. That, again, something else really reminiscent of First Contact, with Picard with the phaser.
Mm-hmm.
Priming the bomb for 40 seconds, she goes to throw it into the holodeck, but is sideswiped at the last moment by a flying virus, sending her and the phaser sprawling. Janeway fights off the stabby virus before getting to her feet, pulling out her knife, cutting off one of the tentacles, then just stabbing the virus and killing it. Oh, that was great. I think that's unfortunately her last kill of the show.
Yeah. That was a little bit cheesy, but she got to stab something.
Only 8 seconds remain on the bomb as she hurls it into the holodeck and runs for cover.
So do you think all the characters in there also were running and screaming when they saw the bomb come flying in?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, they're not having a good day on the holo program.
No, that was not a good day at the spa. We're going to have to reprogram them.
You know what they should have done is in the next time that they show the spa program, they should show them all with messed up hair and burn marks on their clothes. All that kind of stuff. That would be good.
Oh, that would be funny.
There's a huge green explosion and the doctor calls Janeway, reporting success. The macroviruses have been destroyed, with heavy damage to the holodeck, but no hull breaches. Janeway calls the Tac-Tac, and the consul expresses astonishment and stops the purification as Janeway tells him they'll share the cure. He thanks Janeway, offering good health
And then I think this was on purpose, but after she hung up, she put her hands on her hips.
Yes, that was another very nice touch in this episode.
Yes.
In her quarters, Janeway is listening to elevator music and appears to be painting. And my note here says, what's with the music? Does Voyager have a smooth jazz channel?
I don't know. I think they were just trying to say Janeway needed a moment. She needed like some calm music. She was having her own spa day, but she wasn't leaving her quarters.
Yeah. Chakotay delivers an update on repairs and that some of the crew are still queasy. She grants an extended R&R for all the personnel, and he invites her to a holodeck skiing trip to the Kataran Glaciers, describing it as a good workout. Janeway declines, saying she's had enough of a workout for the time being.
Yeah.
And goes back to her painting as we close on the traditional outside shot of Voyager as the elevator music plays. The end.
Was it just me, or were you not waiting for like some little buzzing or something in the background while she was doing that? Or just for her to like maybe think she heard something, but then it was something else buzzing? I don't know. I was really waiting for a little buzz in the background, but there wasn't that one.
You know, I think that would be the kind of thing TNG would do.
I do think that's the kind of thing TNG would do. Yes.
I think the idea was they were going for, like you said, Janeway wanted just calm time. The rest after the storm.
She needed some peace. And she was in a very good mood. I think she should have been like, I saved you all. You guys did nothing.
I think, if you're a Starfleet captain, I feel there's a lot of, I saved you all again. I think that's just part of the job.
Oh, you would not have survived without me. Yeah.
Yes.
Again.
So I think this was impressive. I mean, we had 5 Janeway phasering things and 1 knife-wielding Janeway stabbing things.
And a bomb. Don't forget the bomb.
Well, the bomb. Okay, yeah, there's the bomb. That was a pretty good one.
That could have got hundreds of them. We don't know.
Oh, thousands.
Or thousands, yeah. But those little bugs could still be everywhere. So I don't know. I guess they have to give everybody the antidote.
Yeah, fly swatters.
Yeah. Yeah. And then get some big fly swatters out.
And can we get some power washers in here?
Oh, well, the power washers are necessary because that green crap was everywhere.
Plus, as you bring up multiple times on different episodes, with it being so hot in there, can you imagine what that ship smelled like?
Oh, blech. Yeah, I'm sure it was quite gross.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have overanalysis?
Yes. I think the first thing is the body language of these aliens. Janeway seemed somewhat surprised by it, but you would think there would be other races that Starfleet would have encountered that would have body language as part of their communication system.
I feel like we have encountered something before that wasn't quite this dramatic. Well, and I think what she says was she just couldn't get the hang of it, right? It wasn't so much that maybe it shocked her, but she just couldn't quite get there.
Ah, okay. She did say that. So, yeah, I guess that would be a more reasonable explanation of it's not unheard of. It was just this one was uncommon or didn't click with her.
Well, because they're so used to the communicators being able to just solve all their problem, but just couldn't do it in this case,
Next thing, is there something more to this virus? So it managed to go from a microscopic level to a macroscopic, which, it's kind of a huge deal because how does it deal with processing oxygen and holding itself together when its scale changes and it can't be single cellular and it can't just be a virus. And it also seems to be smart enough to work its way through Starfleet technology. Yeah. So is this an engineered virus? Is this some kind of bioweapon that escaped?
I think that's a good guess because otherwise we're really underplaying it. The fact that it would go from that tiny size to that giant size in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
So probably something engineered.
I thought that could be a nice side piece of the story that it was engineered, but I guess it didn't really need it. I mean, it worked as a horror story. So, that's maybe just me wanting something that wasn't written. Because that leads on to, so the tac-tac, when he says there's no cure, did that imply that they knew about this virus, that they'd actually experienced it or had some understanding of it? Or was it just a case of maybe they discovered the miners, heard the miners' distress call, their medical officer looked at it and went, whoa, can't cure this. This is dangerous. So they were just reacting to what they discovered, or did they know about it?
I mean, the implication is they knew about it.
Yeah.
But honestly, if this thing had been behaving this way on multiple planets, I mean, I feel like it would have wiped out an awful lot of people.
Oh, yeah. If it's that quick.
Yeah. So it does make you wonder if the Tac had actually created it, sent it down to that mining planet, and then when it went a little awry, they're like, uh-oh, we better blow that thing up.
Oh, yeah, we use that for our bioengineered weapons testing. Oops.
Yep. Like, let's just destroy all the evidence.
Yeah. You've just given the Tac a really dark side here.
Yeah, that's more like something you would do. But I think it's a good question. There's a lot of things in this episode where you kind of have to wave your hand, and I think that is one of the waves you have to do.
Well, I do have a hand wave count if we want to talk about it now.
Okay.
First one, can't transport from the shuttle to Voyager.
Like when, are you talking about when the Doctor's in there or when Neelix and Janeway are in there?
When they get no response from the ship, they don't transport to the bridge or something like that.
Well, I think the bioelectric interference maybe could have prevented them from transporting. But also, I'm not sure you would transport right to the bridge if you're not getting any response, because chances are it's been taken over.
Interesting.
But I'm going with bioelectric interference.
Okay, that is a good catch-all. That one does work pretty well.
You have to use it to wave your hand several times.
The computer's offline for some reason?
Why? Yeah. Bioelectric interference? I don't know.
Or, these viruses, bioengineered, they can affect technology. Look at the way they just went through the Starfleet systems with no problem.
Yeah.
Maybe they took the computer offline.
They could have, or they could have caused it to scramble itself somehow. Okay, I'm going to throw a really wild thing out there.
Okay, go.
Remember the end of season 1 where the gel packs start getting infected?
Yeah.
Maybe somebody put some overly zealous security protocol on that if something went wrong with a gel pack, we just shut stuff down.
Oh.
Maybe we caused our own problem.
That's a good one. Yeah. One gel pack got infected and the system went panic, shut everything down.
We can't have the gel packs talking to each other.
Okay. That's a good one.
Hand wave.
The quarantine from biocontainment fields.
Oh.
On deck 2.
Oh, I thought you meant in the transporter, which is, that's the worst. I think that's the worst of all of them. But yeah.
That's a separate one. How they migrated from the biofilters into the pattern buffer.
Yes, that one I think is quite ridiculous.
Yeah.
Them getting off of deck 2, I'm going to say they were already off of deck 2 and they just hadn't figured it out yet.
I could go with a bioelectric field they were generating.
Could be that too.
Overloaded the plasma conduit and blew enough of a hole in the containment shield that they could get through.
Okay.
And I think my final one is the Doctor can't transport when he's trapped in the shuttle, but I think you've covered that. You've got that with it's the bioelectric field. That's
bioelectric interference. I actually think it's worse that the Doctor didn't just leave the hypospace when he left, throw it at Tom, and then get the hell out of there. That's a silly hand wave to me.
We'll start inoculating people in the leg.
Yeah.
When he's crawling on the floor.
Exactly.
Yeah, the macroviruses can't seem to get underneath tables. So he's safe.
Yeah. And it wasn't specifically trying to go for his emitter.
Yeah.
It was just attracted to his signal or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of hand waving.
I think, if we're honest, we can kind of work around the hand waves.
Apart from the one, which is when they beam it on board without knowing it.
Yeah,
that, I think, that one's unforgivable.
Yeah, that one, you have to do a little bit of headcanon on that one of, they had a technology component because they were engineered.
All right. I'll allow it.
And I think that wraps up my overanalysis. Over to you.
Oh, I think we've talked about most of the things I have.
Yeah.
We talked about how they've made Neelix useful and so much more palatable.
Yes. Great.
As we got to season 3, yes, very good.
Yep.
And we also talked about what happened to Neelix because he just disappeared and we never saw him again. The stupid transporters beaming things in that doesn't recognize. Okay, we talked about that. And then we also talked about what was causing all this interference. I think you have a good theory. Maybe the only thing left in my list of overanalysis points is I do feel like, and this I could be misremembering, but I do feel like Voyager has the most sort of horror episodes like this.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of a monster that's attacking. I mean, we had other episodes in other shows that did horror-like things. Certainly TNG, there was the one, I think it was called Schisms, where something was coming to get them in their dreams or whatever, right?
Yeah.
but I do have this memory that Voyager had the most kind of like this. And I suppose it makes sense because Voyager also is the only one where the ship is completely on its own. And we don't have a lot of Federation type interaction or episodes.
Yeah, you can't really get help from other Federation ships, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there was the great one with Kess and that alien that got into people's dreams, where she had to battle it at the end.
Was that in their dreams? Or they were having like waking hallucinations?
Yeah, waking hallucinations.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this isn't the first one. I just feel like there's a lot of them in Voyager, and I like it. I don't normally like horror movies, but I like horror stories, which is different. And of course, they're much more palatable in Trek because they're pretty much PG. So I can take that. Although the bugs flying out of the sores was gross.
You can't go too gross. That was probably about as far as you got.
I think Brannon Braga, who's written some of the best Star Trek episodes and also the worst in Threshold, but I think he wrote this.
Yes, this was one of his.
And I read that, I think this was on Memory Alpha, he was trying to come up with an episode that had no dialogue. And I think that would have been a little gimmicky, I think, if there was no dialogue in this episode. But it's pretty light on dialogue because there's many scenes that it's just Janeway.
If he was aiming for a very visual episode, this was a very visual episode. I will very much give him that.
Yeah, I think he still accomplished that.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, he has written some fantastic episodes. I will say the one thing about Threshold is it did give us a lot of laughs.
Yeah.
That might not have been his intention, but we did laugh at it a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Timeless coming up in the not too distant future, which is one of the absolute greats.
I think he did a pretty good job here.
Agreed.
So if we move to Janeway's leadership corner, look, this was the best day of Janeway's life. She's never had so much fun in her life. She got all tooled up. She saved the ship on her own, didn't need anybody else's help. She nailed it.
So is that box in engineering with all the phaser and all the other stuff, is that standard or is that Janeway's special box that she keeps there?
I feel like that's her secret stash that only she has the code to.
It's her bug out box.
I do think there are times when, sure, you're a valuable engineer. You're maybe the best engineer when you're the engineer, but then you move up the ranks, you become captain, you start to feel like maybe you're not as useful as you used to be. And then you have those days where you actually are the one that kills the virus and saves the ship. And you're like, oh yeah, I still got it.
Yeah, if that's it, yeah, she still definitely got it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's also funny, the thing you notice as well is the sweat patch in her tank top. During the episode, it slowly gets larger and larger.
Well, yeah, it's getting hotter and hotter. She's sweating more and more. And, when she takes her uniform sort of apart and gets down to that tank top, that turtleneck thing, we've seen it on some other show. I think it might have been on Deep Space Nine, where that turtleneck, it's not even a real part of the shirt. Like she just unhooks it or something and takes it off. Yeah. That is such a 90s thing, a fake turtleneck. And it's funny to watch her do that. If I go to women in the future, I mean, I feel like I have sort of a similar comment that I had before, which is that this isn't typically the role of the woman in a show, certainly in the 90s, where she is the action hero. And she's not unrealistically strong. She's just smart and she knows what she's doing. And she's also very determined. And so I think in terms of women in the future, this was a pretty good episode.
Yeah. What do you think of the parallel to Ellen Ripley? I mean, there's some scenes that seem to be very Aliens, Ellen Ripley in here.
I don't think we have to connect her to Ripley because I don't think we have to, every time something happens with a female character, we have to connect it to another female character because we don't necessarily do that with the male characters when that happens.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a lot of parallels to Alien, the movie itself, because we talked about like it looked sort of like the alien goo, and there was this alien that you don't really see that often, and mostly it's because we don't have too much money for special effects, but it's mostly us, chasing or being chased by a thing that we can't necessarily see.
Yeah.
And she's also the last person basically standing and has to save the ship, right? So there are certainly a lot of parallels in those two stories. But I don't know that the characters themselves are paralleled because Ripley this wasn't really her natural state, whereas this felt like this was Janeway's natural state, that she was going to save the ship.
I don't necessarily mean it as a parallel to Janeway. I mean it as like mirroring an icon of sort of the iconic visuals of Ripley and of Janeway. Because there's also, I felt when she's coming down the corridor, that's also the iconography of Picard with the phaser in First Contact.
Yeah, I actually felt that a lot more. I think because there were so many links to First Contact.
Yeah.
But I can certainly see why people would compare her in this episode to Ripley.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
Absolute 2 thumbs up. What a great episode. Such a great action episode for Star Trek. It has a great sense of suspense. Mm-hmm. It works. Yeah. Like you said, Neelix, this transformation of Neelix into a character that is both useful and interesting and somebody you care about. Mm-hmm. And the Doctor, the risk with the Doctor would be make the Doctor the perfect character. He can fix everything. He has the computer. He's super smart. And having the Doctor is sort of like, which way do I go now?
Yeah. And sort of a coward as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great example of a Star Trek captain. Mulgrew just nailed it again. Thoroughly enjoyable episode. Absolute thumbs up. Good job.
Yeah, I agree. Thumbs up. This is a great, very entertaining episode. Again, when we are picking on things, it's like, oh, pick. What a great episode. I mean, we pick on them because that's what you do when you watch Star Trek, when you're big fans, but also it's kind of what you have to do on the podcast, right? Because you're sort of scrutinizing it and you're putting yourself up to being able to do that. But that doesn't mean we don't love it, because I really enjoyed this.
Oh, yeah. This is great Star Trek.
I really like that we didn't overdo what Janeway's capabilities were.
Yes.
She tooled up and she used the tools that she had, including her intellect, in order to solve the problem. I thought that was really good. And there were lots of little touches that were good. Yes, there were holes. The thing of beaming that virus on board, I don't buy it.
Right.
But there were little things like the way that they set up Ensign Wildman's room. We never had to see Ensign Wildman or the baby, but we set that up. And they made it sort of like it was a horror movie from the 90s. So I liked that. I liked the little bit of humor that we had. I liked the elevation, a little bit of Neelix as well. I thought that was pretty good. And I really liked that scene on the bridge where we didn't have any special effects. We just had a little buzzing noise and the movement of the camera. And that actually made for a really suspenseful scene that was executed quite well. So yeah, lots of little things to like. Oh, and I liked the tac-tac. I thought that was, it was cute that Janeway just couldn't do it and that she had to rely on Neelix. And it was a little humor. And then at the end when she put her hands on her hips, I was like, oh, she did that on purpose.
Yeah, oh, right.
Yeah. So great episode.
And I mentioned it, I think, at the beginning earlier. This is a great science fiction concept episode. And I always love it when they embrace that in Trek.
Yeah.
You could do this in Black Mirror, The Twilight Zone. You could do it in another show, but putting it and making it work in a Star Trek environment makes it so much more enjoyable. For me, personally.
Yeah, agreed. All right, that wraps up Season 3, Episode 12. Come back next week for lucky number 13. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us over analysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at ReBingeIT@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us or follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads at ReBingeIT, or you can join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.
Knack, 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 knack.